My boss, who is also my uncle, told me, "You're ungrateful. I can find 10 people to do your job for half the price." I resigned on the spot. I didn't tell him I was the only one with the source code to the server. 2 days later, the system crashed. He called begging for the codes. I said, "Consulting fee is $500 an hour, minimum 40 hours upfront." He paid. So here's the thing about family businesses. They're great until they're not. And when they're not, they're a special kind of nightmare that makes you question why humans even invented the concept of relatives. My name's Austin, I'm 32, and until 2 weeks ago, I worked for my uncle's wholesale automotive parts company. Not glamorous, not exciting, just a steady gig managing systems for a business that's been around since 1987. My uncle Greg started it selling brake pads out of a garage in Akron. Now it's got 43 people across 3 warehouses in Ohio, pulling in about $8.4 million annually. I'd been there for 9 years. Started right out of college when Uncle Greg called and said he needed someone who understood computers. Back then, they were using paper invoices and Excel sheets from 2003. They'd lost a $67,000 order because they told a customer they had parts in stock that they'd already sold. Greg never forgot it. I showed up January 2016 with a degree in information systems and 0 real-world experience. Taught myself Python watching YouTube at 2 a.m. Built them a custom inventory management system from scratch over 8 months. The system went live November 2016. Within 3 months, order processing dropped from 4 hours to 11 minutes. Inventory accuracy went from 76% to 98.3%. The company saved roughly $340,000 that first year. Uncle Greg gave me a $3,000 bonus that December. "You saved this business," he said. Felt good. For a while. The system handled everything. Purchase orders, vendor relationships, shipping logistics, customer accounts, pricing algorithms, inventory tracking across all 3 locations, automated reordering, customer portal for 24/7 ordering, integration with FedEx, UPS, and freight companies. It worked. It scaled. When Greg opened the second warehouse in Toledo in 2018, I set up the integration. Third warehouse in Cincinnati opened 2020. Took me 4 days. I knew every quirk in that system, every fragile integration, every bug. I'd built it piece by piece, crisis by crisis. Uncle Greg loved me for about 5 years. Called me his tech genius nephew at every family gathering. Thanksgiving 2018, he literally stood up and gave a toast about how I'd brought the company into the 21st century. My aunt cried. My mom looked proud. My dad asked if I was getting paid enough. I laughed and said probably not, but it was family, so it was fine. That should have been a warning sign. Around year 6, things started shifting. It was subtle at first. Greg stopped asking my opinion in meetings. Started CCing me on emails instead of addressing them to me directly. When I brought up issues with the system or suggested improvements, he'd say, "We'll look into that," and then never mention it again. Then came the raise conversation of 2021. I was making $52,000 at that point. Hadn't gotten a real raise since 2018. Cost of living had gone up. I was doing the work of 3 people: system administration, database management, user support, vendor integration, project planning. I'd taken exactly 4 vacation days in 5 years because I was the only one who could fix things when they broke. I put together a proposal, documented my responsibilities, compared my salary to industry standards for IT professionals with my experience level in Ohio, showed the monetary value I'd brought to the company, asked for $72,000. Greg read it in about 30 seconds. "That's not realistic right now," he said. "Business is tight. Maybe next year." Business pulled in $7.1 million that year. Greg bought himself a new Lexus 3 months later. Company Christmas party was at a country club. But sure, business was tight. I got a $3,000 raise, brought me to $55,000. I smiled and said thank you, because that's what you do when it's family. That's when Bradley came back. Bradley is Greg's only son, 2 years younger than me. We'd grown up seeing each other at family events, never close, but never enemies either. He went to business school at some private college in Michigan, graduated 2014, immediately jumped into real estate investment with money from Greg. That venture lasted 4 years and lost approximately $180,000. Bradley bought 3 condos in Columbus right before the 2018 market correction. Tried to flip them. Market tanked. He held on to them, bled money on mortgages and maintenance, finally sold them in 2021 at a combined loss that made Thanksgiving dinner super awkward. January 2022, Greg hired Bradley as operations consultant. Nobody knew what that meant, including Bradley. His first week, he walked around with a clipboard asking people questions like, "What's your daily efficiency metric?" And "How do we quantify your value added?" Jennifer told me he'd asked her to itemize her strategic contributions, and she just stared at him until he left. Bradley made $73,000 his first year, more than me. I'd been there 6 years, built the entire digital infrastructure, and my cousin, who just bankrupted 3 condos, was making $18,000 more than me. But it was fine. Family business. These things work themselves out, except they didn't. Bradley got promoted to operations manager after 6 months. Now he wasn't just asking annoying questions. He was making decisions. Bad ones. He tried to switch vendors to save $4,000 annually on packaging supplies. The new vendors' boxes were lower quality. We had 17 shipments arrive damaged in the first month, cost us $31,000 in replacements, and lost customer confidence. I had to rebuild the customer trust algorithms in the system to flag previous damaged shipments for extra care. Took me a week. He implemented a new efficiency tracking system that required employees to log every activity in 15-minute increments. Everyone hated it. Productivity dropped 23% in the first month because people spent more time logging activities than doing them. Greg finally shut it down after Frank threatened to quit. But the worst part? Bradley reported directly to Uncle Greg, and I reported to Bradley. Let that sink in for a second. The guy who built the entire operational backbone of the company, who'd saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars, who worked weekends and holidays and missed family events to keep things running. That guy now reported to someone whose greatest achievement was losing money on real estate. I brought this up exactly once. Greg's response: Bradley needs experience managing people. It's good for his development. Right. My career was now a training exercise for someone else's development. Fun. I kept my head down, did my job, maintained the system, handled the updates, fixed the bugs, documented everything Bradley screwed up but never said anything publicly because family drama wasn't worth it. When the server crashed during the 2022 heat wave, temps hit 104 degrees, and the warehouse AC couldn't keep up, the server room turned into an oven. System went down at 8:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I got the alert on my phone while I was having dinner with Kayla. I just ordered my food. I wrapped the burger to go, drove to the warehouse, and spent the next 4 hours in a room that felt like Satan's armpit, rebuilding corrupted database tables, and restoring from backups while sweat dripped onto my keyboard. Got everything back online by 1:15 a.m. Next morning, Jennifer sent me a thank you email. Greg didn't mention it at all. Bradley sent me a message saying next time respond faster. The response time from alert to arrival was 11 minutes. I don't even know what faster would have meant. Teleportation? Then there was the vendor catalog disaster of March 2023. One of our major suppliers, they provide 34% of our inventory, decided to completely overhaul their entire product catalog system. New part numbers, new pricing structure, new API, new everything. They gave us 3 weeks' notice. That's not how software integration works. That's not how any of this works. But they didn't care. They had 1,200 other dealers nationwide. They weren't going to delay their rollout because Greg Parker's auto parts needed more time. I spent every evening for 3 weeks rebuilding the integration from scratch, mapping old part numbers to new ones, updating pricing algorithms, testing every possible failure point. Kayla barely saw me. I'd come home at midnight, eat whatever she'd left in the fridge, pass out, wake up at 6 a.m. and do it again. Launch day came. Our integration worked flawlessly. 3 other dealers in our region had to suspend operations for a week because their systems couldn't handle the transition. We didn't miss a single order. Greg's response? Good job keeping things running. Not, thank you for sacrificing 3 weeks of your life. Not, here's a bonus for saving us from a catastrophic business interruption. Just, good job. By year 8, I'd stopped expecting appreciation. I was there for the paycheck, which had grown to $58,000 after another painful negotiation in 2023, and because I'd built something I was proud of. Nobody understood the system like I did. The documentation existed, sure, but documentation only tells you what the code does, not why it does it that way, or what happens when edge cases occur. That knowledge lived in my head. Every complex system has quirks. Ours had dozens. The way the shipping calculator would sometimes round incorrectly for orders between $4,997 and $5,003 due to a floating point precision issue I'd never quite fixed. The way you had to restart the customer portal service every 3rd Tuesday or it would start throwing authentication errors. The way the inventory sync between warehouses would occasionally lock up if two users tried to transfer the same part at the exact same time, and you had to access the database directly to unlock the transaction. I'd built workarounds for all of it. I'd trained the staff on the quirks they needed to know. I maintained a private repository of fixes and patches and optimizations, and I'd done it all while earning less than the industry standard, reporting to someone unqualified to evaluate my work, and receiving zero recognition for keeping the entire operation running. Should have left years ago. But family guilt is a powerful drug. Last Monday morning started normal. I got to the warehouse at 7:45 a.m., made bad coffee in the break room Keurig that we'd been meaning to replace for 2 years, checked my emails. System alerts overnight. None. Error logs. Clean. Database health. Optimal. I was heating up leftover spaghetti around 11:30 a.m. when Uncle Greg walked in with Bradley. They were mid-conversation, completely focused on whatever they were discussing. Didn't even notice me standing by the microwave. Bradley was complaining about the system being outdated and how any decent programmer could rebuild it better in a month. Uncle Greg was nodding along like Bradley had just discovered gravity. The interface looks like it's from 2005, Bradley said. Customers are complaining it's not user-friendly. We'd had exactly 3 customer complaints about the interface in 7 years. 3. Out of thousands of users. And we're overpaying for basic maintenance, Bradley continued. Austin's making almost 60 grand to babysit code. I've got a buddy from college who runs a development shop in Cleveland. He could send us someone for 30, maybe 35,000. Fresh graduate. Hungry. Probably do a better job, honestly. Uncle Greg made this thoughtful humming sound, like he was actually considering it. You really think we could replace Austin that easily? My hand tightened on the Tupperware container. Dad, I could find 10 guys to do his job for half the price. He's been coasting for years on one project he built back when Obama was president. It's not like he's innovating or anything. The system just runs. Yeah, the system just runs. Like your car just runs. Until it doesn't. And then you remember that someone has to maintain that thing. Austin's been with us a long time, though, Uncle Greg said. Not defending me. Not saying he's valuable or he saved this company. Just acknowledging my existence like you'd acknowledge an old filing cabinet. Yeah, and he's ungrateful, Bradley said. Keeps asking for raises like we owe him something. He should be thankful we even gave him a shot out of college. Most guys with his degree end up at help desks making 40 grand. We've been generous. Generous. I'd saved them over $2 million in the time I'd been there, and they'd paid me a cumulative $483,000. That's not generosity. That's exploitation with a family discount. He's also got that attitude problem, Bradley added. Like he's smarter than everyone else. You've seen it. The way he explains things like we're idiots. I explain things clearly because half the staff barely knows how to attach a file to an email. That's not an attitude problem. That's necessary communication. Uncle Greg sighed. You're probably right. Family or not, this is a business. We can't make decisions based on sentiment. That's when I cleared my throat. They both spun around. Bradley's face went from complaining to dad mode to, oh no, we got caught mode in about half a second. His ears actually turned red. Uncle Greg just looked annoyed that I'd interrupted their little strategy session. Not embarrassed, not apologetic. Annoyed. Austin, Uncle Greg said slowly. Didn't see you there. Clearly. The microwave beeped. None of us moved. The hum of the ventilation system suddenly seemed really loud. Look, Uncle Greg said, trying to pivot into his manager voice. The one he used when he was about to say something he knew was wrong, but was going to say anyway. We were just discussing some operational changes. Nothing personal. Right. Nothing personal about calling me ungrateful and replaceable. Bradley recovered his composure, crossed his arms. Don't be sensitive, it's just business analysis. We're looking at cost structures across all departments. All departments? Or just me? You're not special, Austin, Bradley said. Everyone's under review. Really? Have you analyzed your own cost structure? Because from where I'm standing, $73,000 a year for someone whose main contribution is bad ideas and motivational buzzwords seems pretty expensive. Bradley's face went red for real now. That's out of line. Is it? You just spent 5 minutes explaining how I'm overpaid for maintaining the system that runs this entire operation. I'm just applying your logic to your position. Uncle Greg held up a hand. Austin, nobody's attacking you. We're having a private discussion about resource allocation. Private? You're literally standing in the break room. This is company property. Anyone can walk in here. If you wanted privacy, you should have used your office. Don't be difficult, Uncle Greg said. You know what I mean. But I did know what he meant. And that was the problem. He meant that I was supposed to accept being disrespected, undervalued, and discussed like a budget line item because family businesses run on guilt and obligation instead of fairness. I'd accepted it for 9 years. 9 years of being underpaid, 9 years of watching less qualified people get promoted above me, 9 years of working weekends and missing events and sacrificing my time because it's family and we all pitch in. And here I was, finding out that my uncle and cousin thought I was not only replaceable, but actually a burden they'd been gracious enough to tolerate. Something in me just clicked off. You know that moment when you realize you've been tap dancing for people who wouldn't cross the street to help you? When you finally see that the relationship you thought was mutual was actually completely one-sided? That was my moment right there, holding lukewarm spaghetti in a break room that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. You're absolutely right, I said. This is business. So here's my business decision. I quit. The silence that followed was almost beautiful. Uncle Greg blinked. What? I quit. Effective immediately. You want someone who can do my job for half the price? Go find them. Should be easy, right? 10 guys waiting in line? Bradley scoffed. Come on, don't be dramatic. Not dramatic, just done. I pulled my phone out, opened my email, and typed out a formal resignation letter. 2 sentences. Sent it to Uncle Greg, HR, and the compliance officer. There, official. You've got my resignation in writing. I'll drop off my keys and laptop tomorrow. Uncle Greg's expression shifted from annoyed to concerned. Austin, let's talk about this. You can't just quit on the spot. Actually, Ohio's an at-will state. I can quit whenever I want. Just like you can fire me whenever you want. I grabbed my spaghetti from the microwave. But hey, good news. You're about to save $58,000 a year. I walked out of that break room and straight to my desk. Packed up my stuff in a cardboard box I found near the printer. Personal photos. A coffee mug my girlfriend gave me. A stress ball shaped like a transmission gear. Took me 12 minutes. People were staring. Jennifer from accounting looked horrified. Ramon from shipping gave me this sad nod. Nobody said anything because nobody knew what to say. Uncle Greg appeared at my desk. Austin, come on. Let's go to my office and talk this through. Nothing to talk through. You made your position clear. I'm ungrateful and overpaid. Problem solved. I didn't say that. You nodded while Bradley said it. Same thing. He ran his hand through his hair, looking frustrated. Don't be childish about this. That's when I stopped packing and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd given me my first job, who I'd worked weekends for, who I'd sacrificed relationships and sleep and sanity for. Childish is listening to your son trash talk me because he needs to feel important. Professional is recognizing when you're not valued and moving on. You're valued. Of course you're valued. For $35,000 a year, apparently. Uncle Greg's face went from red to purple. Now hold on. I'm done holding on. You want to run this place with Bradley's budget programmers? Go ahead, I'm out. I picked up my box and walked toward the exit. Stopped at the door, turned back. Oh, one more thing. The system's custom built. All the source code is on my personal GitHub repository. Private repository. It's not on the company servers, it's not in any shared drives. Just mine. You'll want to get that from me before I leave. Uncle Greg's eyes went wide. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that the entire inventory management system exists on my personal account. I built it. I own it. Nobody else has access. That's company property. Actually, check my employment contract. Section 7, Clause C. Any custom software built by employees using their own resources and personal time is considered derivative work with shared ownership unless explicitly transferred in writing. I smiled. We never did that paperwork. My lawyer girlfriend made sure I understood that clause real well about 3 years ago. Bradley appeared next to Uncle Greg. You can't hold the system hostage? Not holding anything hostage. Just clarifying ownership. You want access to the code? We can work out a licensing agreement. Should be pretty straightforward. This is extortion, Bradley said. This is capitalism. I built something valuable. You want it, you pay for it. Isn't that how business works? Uncle Greg looked like he wanted to throw something. I gave you a job when nobody else would hire you, and I gave you 9 years of underpaid loyalty. We're even. I walked out, dropped my laptop and keys at the security desk, drove home feeling lighter than I had in 6 years. My girlfriend Kayla was working from home when I got there. She's a paralegal for a firm that specializes in employment law. When I told her what happened, she actually laughed. They really thought they could replace you? Apparently I'm overpaid. You're underpaid by about 40 grand. I've told you that for 2 years. She pulled out her laptop. Okay, let's talk strategy. They're going to panic in about 48 hours. Why 48 hours? Because that's when the automated inventory sync runs. And without you there to monitor it, something's going to break. It always does. She was right. Tuesday passed quietly. Too quietly. My phone buzzed a few times with texts from coworkers asking what happened. Jennifer. Austin, what's going on? Greg won't talk about it. Ramon. Heard you quit. Can't say I blame you. Good luck out there. Stephen from the loading dock. Bradley's already screwing things up. He tried to adjust the shipping priority algorithm, and now half the orders are showing the wrong delivery dates. I responded politely to everyone, didn't trash talk anyone, just said it was time to move on. Thanked them for being good coworkers. Wished them well. Kayla suggested we go out for dinner Tuesday night. Took me to this nice Italian place I'd been wanting to try but never had time for, because I was always on call. We ordered appetizers. She got wine. I got sparkling water because someone had to drive. How does it feel? She asked. Weird. Good weird. Like I just stopped carrying something heavy, and my shoulders don't know what to do yet. You should have left 3 years ago. I know. But you're out now. That's what matters. Wednesday morning started normal. I slept until 8:30 a.m. for the first time in 9 years. Made actual breakfast instead of grabbing a granola bar on my way out the door. Sat on the couch in my pajamas drinking coffee and scrolling through job boards just to see what was out there. IT Systems administrator positions in Ohio, $72,000 to $95,000. Database management, $68,000 to $88,000. Software developer roles, $75,000 to $110,000. I'd been making $58,000 for work that required all three of those skill sets combined. At 9:47 a.m., Uncle Greg called. I looked at the phone, looked at Kayla. She raised an eyebrow. Too soon, I said, and declined the call. He called again at 10:15 a.m. I declined. 10:52 a.m., declined. Then the call started coming faster. 11:34, 11:58, 12:23, 12:47. Kayla made us lunch. Actual lunch, like a salad with grilled chicken and vegetables and everything. Not a sandwich eaten standing up at my desk. They're panicking, she said. Good. 1:15 p.m., 1:43 p.m., 2:09 p.m., 2:34 p.m., 2:58 p.m., 3:12 p.m., 3:41 p.m. Then Bradley called. I almost answered just to hear what excuse he'd come up with. Almost. Declined. Then Jennifer from accounting called. Then Ramon. Then even Stephen from the loading dock, who I'd maybe spoken to 5 times in 9 years. I was sitting on my couch eating leftover Italian from the night before, watching my phone light up like someone was running a phone tree for an emergency evacuation. Kayla emerged from her home office around 3:30 p.m., coffee mug in hand. System crashed? System crashed. You going to answer? Eventually. Let them sweat a little longer. She grinned. You're enjoying this. Little bit. You've earned it. The thing about the inventory system is that it's genuinely complex. Not complex in a this is deliberately confusing way. Complex in a this is what happens when you integrate 8 years of business evolution into one coherent system way. 7 different integration points with vendor databases, each with their own API quirks and authentication requirements. 3 separate shipping company APIs that all handle data slightly differently. Custom pricing algorithms that adjust for bulk orders, seasonal demand fluctuations, regional market differences, customer loyalty tiers, and promotional periods. Automated reorder triggers that track usage patterns and predict inventory needs. Customer portal with real-time order tracking, invoice history, and account management. Multi-warehouse inventory sync that updates every few hours and handles transfer requests between locations. And it's got exactly 0 redundancy, because Uncle Greg didn't want to pay for cloud backup services or redundant servers. Why pay for 2 systems when one works fine? He'd said back in 2020 when I suggested it. I built that system to run smoothly. It was stable, reliable, but it was also held together by careful monitoring and regular maintenance that I performed. Little things like clearing cache files, monitoring database growth, checking API connection health, verifying sync logs, updating security certificates before they expired. And it required someone who understood how all the pieces fit together. The code was commented, sure. I documented everything, but documentation only helps if you understand the underlying logic and can troubleshoot when something goes wrong. Without me there to monitor it, the Wednesday morning inventory sync hit a conflict. Probably Toledo and Cincinnati both tried to update the same part simultaneously. The system locked the transaction. Without manual intervention, It stayed locked. Other transactions started queuing behind it. Within an hour, the entire system ground to a halt. At least, that's what I figured happened. I'd seen it before. Fixed it a dozen times. At 4:37 p.m., Uncle Greg sent a text. Austin, please call me. This is urgent. The system is down and we can't process orders. I texted back, sorry to hear that. Have you tried calling one of those 10 guys who can do my job for half the price? 3 minutes later, don't be petty. We need your help. Me. I'm not an employee anymore, but I'm available for consulting work. The phone rang immediately. I answered. Austin, what the heck is going on? Uncle Greg sounded panicked. Everything's frozen. We can't pull up customer orders. Can't track shipments. Can't process new purchases. Bradley tried to restart the system, but now it won't even load. Yeah, that happens when you force restart during a data sync. Corrupts the session cache. Can you come in and fix it? I don't work there anymore. I know, but this is an emergency. Family helps family. I let that hang for a second. Family? That's interesting. Because on Monday I was ungrateful and overpaid. Now I'm family again? Silence on the other end. Austin, please. We've got $480,000 worth of orders that need to go out by Friday. If we don't process them, we'll lose those contracts. Sounds serious. It is serious. What do you want? You want an apology? Fine, I'm sorry. Bradley was out of line. I was out of line. You're not replaceable. Happy? It's a start. But apologies don't pay bills. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you want me to fix a system I don't own anymore, for a company I don't work for. That's called consulting. And consultants get paid. How much? I pulled up the standard rates Kayla had helped me research. IT consultants with specialized system knowledge in Ohio typically charge $150 to $300 per hour for emergency services. But this wasn't just specialized knowledge. This was a custom system that nobody else could fix. $500 an hour. Minimum 40 hours up front. Uncle Greg actually choked. Are you out of your mind? That's $20,000. That's my rate. You said you could hire someone for $35,000 a year. That's about $17 an hour. So I'm actually giving you a professional with 9 years of experience and complete system knowledge. Seems fair. Austin, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You wanted to run this like a business instead of a family? Okay. This is what business costs. My rate is $500 an hour, 40-hour minimum, payment upfront, non-refundable. You want the system fixed? That's the price. That's extortion. That's consulting. You can hire someone else if you want. I'll wait. I hung up. Kayla was leaning against the doorframe, grinning. You're terrifying when you want to be. I learned from the best. Damn right you did. Uncle Greg didn't call back that night. I figured he was either trying to find someone else or having a breakdown in his office. Maybe both. Thursday morning, Jennifer from accounting called. Austin, please come back. It's chaos here. Bradley tried to get some company from Cleveland to remote into the system, and they made it worse. Now the customer portal is showing prices from 2019 and half the inventory is listed as negative quantities. Negative quantities? Yeah, like we have negative 847 brake rotors in the Columbus warehouse. I whistled. That's impressive. In a bad way. Austin, people are screaming. Uncle Greg is losing it. Bradley locked himself in his office. We need you. Tell Uncle Greg my rate hasn't changed. He says it's too expensive. Then I guess he's got a decision to make. Either pay my rate or lose $500,000 in contracts. She sighed. I'll tell him. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a payment notification. $20,000 deposited into my account via wire transfer. Then Uncle Greg called. There. Happy now? Professional courtesy would be the word I'd use. But sure, we can call it happy. Just come in and fix it. I'll be there in an hour. And Uncle Greg? This is a one-time consulting contract. After I fix this, if you want ongoing maintenance or support, that's a separate agreement with separate terms. Fine, whatever. Just fix it. I showed up at the warehouse at 11:30 a.m., wearing jeans and a t-shirt. No more business casual. I was a consultant now. Consultants wear what they want. The parking lot looked normal, but inside it was complete chaos. Phones ringing off the hook. People running between desks with printed order forms like it was 2005 again. Customer service reps explaining to angry clients that they couldn't access their order status. Bradley standing in the middle of the floor, looking like someone who just discovered his actions have consequences, holding a laptop and staring at error messages. Jennifer saw me walk in and looked relieved. Thank God you're here. Is the server room unlocked? Yeah, Frank's in there. He's been trying to... Tell him to stop trying. I need to work alone. I walked straight to the server room. Frank was indeed there, staring at the terminal screen with the expression of someone reading ancient hieroglyphics. Oh, thank God, Frank said when he saw me. Austin, I don't know what happened. I tried to restart like you showed me that one time, but now it won't even... It's fine. I got it. Can you give me the room? Frank practically ran out. I sat down at the terminal and assessed the damage. It was worse than I'd expected. The initial problem had been a simple transaction lock. Would have taken me 5 minutes to fix. But Bradley, in his infinite wisdom, had brought in that company from Cleveland. They'd remote accessed the system, didn't understand the architecture, started changing things randomly hoping something would work. They'd corrupted 3 databases, broken 2 API integrations by updating libraries that weren't compatible, somehow deleted the automated backup logs, which meant I couldn't even see what changes had been made or roll things back cleanly. And the customer portal was pulling from an old pricing table from 2019 because they'd accidentally restored a database snapshot from the wrong year. The negative inventory quantities were actually kind of funny in a dark way. Some genius had tried to manually correct the inventory sync issues by writing a SQL script, but they'd used subtraction instead of addition, so every incoming shipment was being counted as outgoing. Toledo had received 1,200 brake rotors yesterday morning. The system recorded it as shipping out 1,200. Net result, negative 1,200 brake rotors. Math is important, kids. It took me 6 hours to unfry everything. First, I had to restore the databases from a hidden backup copy I'd kept on an encrypted external drive in my apartment. Good thing I'd grabbed that when I packed my stuff. I'd started keeping personal backups after the heatwave incident in 2022 when I realized Uncle Greg wasn't going to pay for proper backup infrastructure. Then I rebuilt the API connections from scratch. The Cleveland company had broken the authentication tokens and API version management, had to regenerate all the keys, update the endpoints, verify the data mappings. Then I manually corrected the inventory counts, wrote a script to identify every transaction since Tuesday morning, recalculate the proper quantities, and update the database. Tested it on the Toledo data first, then applied it to all 3 warehouses. Then I fixed the customer portal by pointing it back at the correct pricing database. Verified that current prices were displaying correctly across all product categories. Finally, I reset the automated sync scheduler and ran a full system health check to make sure nothing else was broken. Uncle Greg came into the server room around hour 4. Just stood there watching me work. How's it looking? He asked quietly. Fixable. Barely. Another day of Bradley's budget IT guys, and this would have been unrecoverable. He winced. I should have listened to you. Yeah, you should have. I kept typing. He kept standing there. The silence was uncomfortable, which honestly felt appropriate. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Bradley was in my ear about cutting costs, and I got convinced you were coasting. I was wrong. I stopped and looked at him. You know what the worst part is? It's not that you thought I was overpaid. It's that you let Bradley, who's never built anything in his life, convince you that I was replaceable. After 9 years. After everything I did for this place. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you didn't value my work until you couldn't do it without me. Can we talk about you coming back? No. Austin, come on. We need you. I turned back to the screen. You had me, for 9 years, for $58,000 a year. No benefits upgrade, no real raises, no appreciation. You had someone who built your entire operation from scratch and you treated him like overhead. I know. And the second you got uncomfortable with paying me fair value, you started looking for ways to replace me. You listened to your son, who's never built anything in his life, talk about how replaceable I was. You nodded along. Uncle Greg looked tired, old, like the last 2 days had aged him 5 years. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I'm just done being undervalued by people who think loyalty is something you give but never receive. So what? You're just going to consult for us, and that's it? I'm going to finish this job because you paid me. After that, I'll consider ongoing support if the terms are right, but I'm not coming back as an employee. Not here. Not with you. He left without another word, closed the door quietly behind him. By 6 p.m., the system was fully operational. Orders processing, inventory synced, customer portal functioning. I documented everything in a 47-page manual that explained basic troubleshooting, system architecture, and emergency protocols. I found Uncle Greg in his office. It's done. System's running. I've left you documentation for basic maintenance. Anything beyond that, you'll need to call me. Thanks, he said quietly. Here's the invoice for the 40 hours. If you need additional support, I'll send you a formal consulting agreement. Includes monthly retainer options, emergency response rates, and update schedules. He looked at the paperwork. These rates are steep. These rates are market value for specialized consulting. You want cheap? Hire Bradley's buddy from Cleveland. See how that works out. I left the office, walked through the warehouse one last time. Ramon caught my arm. You really not coming back? Really not. Can't say I blame you. He handed me a business card. If you ever need warehouse work or logistics help, call me. You're good people, Austin. Better than this place deserves. I drove home and found Kayla setting up her laptop at the kitchen table. How'd it go? She asked. Fixed everything. Got paid 20 grand for 6 hours of work. She grinned. Not bad for someone who's apparently replaceable. Friday morning, 7:23 a.m. Uncle Greg called. Hey, quick question about the pricing algorithm. It's showing some weird numbers for... That'll require a service call. I'll send you my consulting agreement. Austin, it's just a quick question. Quick questions from clients cost $500 an hour, 1 hour minimum. Long pause. I'll call you back. He didn't call back. Tried to figure it out himself. By noon, Jennifer was texting me that half the products were showing incorrect prices and customers were complaining. 2:47 p.m., Greg called again. Fine. Send the agreement. I emailed him a contract. Monthly retainer of $6,000. 10 hours of support included. Emergency response at $500 per hour. Additional projects billed separately. All invoices due within 15 days. He signed it by 5 p.m. Monday morning, I got a call from a guy named Richard, who owned an industrial supply company in Dayton. Jennifer from Greg Parker Auto Parts gave me your number. Said you do custom inventory systems. I do. Our systems held together with duct tape and prayers. Can you take a look? I drove to Dayton Tuesday. Their setup was worse than Greg's had been in 2016. Still using Excel for everything. Lost a $95,000 order the previous month because they didn't know they were out of stock. Built them a scaled-down version of what I'd built for Greg. Took 3 weeks. Charged them $18,000. They were thrilled. Richard told his brother, who owned a commercial plumbing supply company. That job paid $22,000. The brother told someone at a trade association meeting. Got 2 more clients by the end of month 2. Meanwhile, back at Greg's warehouse, things were falling apart again. Week 3 after the repair, the shipping integration broke. Bradley had apparently tried to optimize something. Greg called me at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. The UPS integration isn't working. Can you fix it tonight? Emergency rate is $500 an hour. 3-hour minimum. That's $1,500 for one fix. That's what happens when you call after hours. You want it fixed or not? He paid. I fixed it remotely in 45 minutes. Billed him for 3 hours anyway. Minimum is a minimum. Week 5, Bradley left. Not fired, technically. Greg sat him down and explained that operations manager wasn't working out. Offered him a position as warehouse associate at $38,000 a year. Bradley quit on the spot. Uncle Greg called me that night. Bradley's gone. I'm going to need more support going forward. Going to cost you. I know. I raised the retainer to $8,500 per month in the new contract. He signed it without arguing. 2 months in, I was pulling in $14,000 a month between Greg's retainer and my other clients. More than double my old salary, working maybe 25 hours a week from home. 3 months in, Jennifer called. Not about work, personal call. Steven from the loading dock wants to quit. He asked if you're hiring. I'm a solo consultant. He figured. Just thought I'd ask. Greg cut everyone's hours to 32 per week to avoid paying benefits. People are looking for exits. I thought about it. Tell Steven to call me. I might have some warehouse contacts who are hiring. Called Ramon, who'd left Greg's place the previous month to start his own freight logistics business. Ramon hired Steven within a week. 4 months in, Greg needed a major system upgrade. One of his vendors was switching platforms again, and the integration needed a complete rebuild. How much? Greg asked. Project bid is $35,000. Takes about 6 weeks. That's insane. That's market rate. You want it, or should I give you the number for Bradley's buddy in Cleveland? He paid. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.